Hello, my name is Jack Stanley, and I'm the co-founder of the Tech Academy. I'd like to welcome you to the Tech Academy podcast. The Tech Academy operates a 15-week software developer bootcamp. Our program can be taken online from anywhere in the world. You can find out more at our website, learncodinganywhere.com. That's learncodinganywhere.com. This is episode 1 of the Tech Academy podcast. In today's podcast, Erik Gross, the other co-founder of the Tech Academy, interviews Jonathon Hensley, the CEO of Emerge Interactive. Enjoy.
All right, joining me today is Jonathon Hensley. Jonathon is the CEO of Emerge Interactive, and I'm very, very glad to be meeting you.
It's great to be here today. Thank you.
Excellent. So the first thing, just so that our listeners actually understand who I'm talking to, can you just tell me, like a thumbnail sketch, what is Emerge Interactive? What do you guys do?
Sure. We're a digital experience company. We've been around for 20 years, and what we really focus on is high stakes or critical digital experiences. So we look for sustainable initiatives, whether it be web, mobile, or internal modernization initiatives.
All right. So the kind of people that you are serving, they have to trust you a lot, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, basically, when we're brought in, we're either fixing something or we're building something from the ground up that they can't afford to get wrong.
That's very, very cool. You like that kind of a high pressure delivery situation?
Absolutely. I think it pushes for more creativity and better quality of the work. And technology at that point is an investment. It's not a disposable asset. So it's really critical to us in how we think at Emerge.
It's a great way to look at it. One of the most challenging things I've experienced as a technology professional myself is working with clients that actually don't understand the true value of what technology can do and are more concerned with what, great term, disposable digital assets. When truly, if you can solve a problem on a permanent basis with technology, what you enable to expand an organization or help it achieve its goals, it's pale. Everything else pales in comparison.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can understand the root cause of an issue, bring technology to enable some sort of increase revenue, decrease costs, or enable a future outcome, better experience, any kind that drives an organization to be healthy and move forward, you're doing something right.
Absolutely. How did you start the company, or were you around from the beginning?
I started the company originally. We started off as a consultancy, mostly around the intersection of how people use technology. Mm-hmm. That drove us into evolving to becoming very heavy in user experience, and then also we integrated full stack development for web and mobile. And internal systems integration became a big part of our organization. So we have a little bit of a unique model in that we don't silo ourselves as a creative shop or a technology organization. We're really focused on breaking down the silos between those two things and having them intersect. So when we engage in a user experience initiative, as an example, we have senior architects, data analysts, engineers that are actually help guiding how that experience can unfold to ensure that we're focused on the right interactions that actually move the needle.
Wow. Okay, so a company that brings you in is essentially bringing on board, what it sounds like, what it would take them years to develop in terms of an internal group. Like that much expertise and knowledge, how do they do that? They can't, except at great expense.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the advantage, right? I mean, even if you have an in-house team, one of the best benefits of bringing an outside source is that we bring perspective. Mm-hmm. We bring capacity and capabilities that are outside of their org structure. So that's, a huge advantage. And of course, after 20 years of doing this, we've created a very senior team that's able to come in and move that progression for an organization really quickly. And a big part of that also then starts to intersect with business strategies. You have to understand how a business works. Mm-hmm. You can't just be on the creative side of it or the technology side. You really have to understand, how do you facilitate? How do you bring the humanizing parts of technology? How do you bring the infrastructure, the app layers, and the user experience together and understand the different life cycles it has, the different organizational components that need to be involved? These are all variables for companies being successful, and that's hard to develop.
It absolutely is. You like helping people, don't you?
Love it. It's my favorite part of my job.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I like meeting people that are motivated by help. I've realized for a long time now that we're at our best when we're helping other people.
Absolutely.
And I think that people who help others genuinely and sincerely, over the long haul, their lives go really, really well.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I couldn't agree more.
How'd you even get into technology though? You're talking about an era when you started this, late 90s, beginning of the popularity of the internet and the World Wide Web. Were you a technology geek as a kid? What's your background that way?
Well, I grew up as a geek, and I am, happy to wear that badge of honor. I definitely grew up also in the right place at the right time, as far as I'm concerned. For me, I grew up in the Bay Area, in Palo Alto, stone's throw away from companies like Apple and HP. And back then, there was this unprecedented access, even as a young kid. So I started tinkering and building computers, by the age of 8 and 9. I started developing software in my early teenage years, and then I really was fascinated by the opportunities that Stanford University would provide to the community, and these user groups that were coming together around building custom software for different new hardware plays that were being made in the Valley at the time. And it just opened my eyes to what was possible. And I was really fortunate that I was able to get some great mentors at a very, very young age. One of them was a history professor that was, a self-proclaimed, super nerd in the technology space. And, he really took me under his wing and, allowed me to get access to an unprecedented amount of knowledge very quickly. And I was so grateful and hungry to take that opportunity on.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm a Bay Area kid as well. I was born in San Francisco, but I grew up north of there on the coast in Mendocino and Fort Bragg.
Oh, yeah.
So quite removed, actually, from the physical center of technology. But my dad programmed IBM mainframes in the 60s. So when the personal computers came out, the VIC-20s, the Commodore 64 and the Trash 80s, he bought a VIC-20 when we could absolutely not afford it, and opened my eyes to the world of technology.
Yeah.
So you're right. It just goes back to help. The help you got from the history professor, the help I got from my dad, and from a couple key technology geeks in that tiny small town. There was a spark there. I wanted that. I recognized something like that's fascinating, but they made it approachable and inspired me. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Even I remember back then, you could even go to a place like Sprint Labs, where they were playing with technologies where most of the employees there, I think, had like 2 doctorates. And you could walk in and see what they were doing with early satellite technology. And, just there was this uncanny ability to just walk in and have opportunity, because it was still such a small culture. Right?
Yeah.
It was this relatively unknown, relatively invisible community, even in the Bay
Hobbyist,
Area.
nerds kind of thing a bit.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah. I remember a computer user group, like phones were ringing, like, you got to come to this thing, right? In my tiny little small town, because they had a touch screen monitor. This is 1983 or 84, right? And I remember seeing this thing. I was fascinated, but all it was a grid of X and Y coordinates with laser, lines. And if you put your finger on there, well, suddenly 2 lines don't connect. Which are the 2? I'm like, it's just one more example. Technology, when you break down to the most fundamental parts, it's actually incredibly simple. You can layer all this complexity on top of it, but at the end of the day, it's a machine. And it was so neat to see that go, oh, I touched the screen, and over here it shows which XY coordinates. Oh, I can map to that, and I can make software interact with that. That was a pivotal moment too. That's fun stuff.
That's phenomenal.
So there's a technology side, which it sounds like you keep up on, really effectively. But then there's also just building and creating a business, which they're 2 totally separate skill sets. How have you been able to solve, surviving and expanding for 20 years? What's your approach?
Well, I think that, especially today's environment, if you're not open to change, then you are just going to die. Honestly, there's no room in the marketplace for anybody that's not open to change and being progressively listening to the market. The market decides whether or not your business is viable.
Yeah.
So as the market shifts, your job is to listen. Your job is to engage and not get tunnel vision into what you do today, but understand as a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive of a Fortune 500 company what the market is looking for. And I think that's where the power of a good business starts, and then it evolves, and it can take a lot of different shapes, but it has to start with that ability to embrace change.
That's fantastic. I couldn't agree more, by the way. I was at kind of a workshop yesterday at the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, and one of the things that ran as a thread through all of the presentation there was this idea that no matter how bright or cool or awesome you think your idea is, none of it matters if it doesn't actually resonate with enough people who are willing to do something about it.
Yeah,
the idea
absolutely.
that you just, well, I think it's cool, isn't actually that important. And that can be a humbling thing when you think you have the greatest invention since sliced bread, and you show it to people and you get a resounding yawn.
Yeah.
But if you do, then you do, and you better pivot and figure out what to do with it. It sounds like that's part of how you've approached building what you've built.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it. And I think also, there's so much saturation in the market these days, and especially in user experience and technology shops. It's, digital is table stakes now.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to execute and closing that gap from end to end, that's unique still.
Yes, it is.
So, that difference, has caused a lot of confusion for the market. So as an entrepreneur or a seasoned business owner, if you're running $1 billion business unit, you're dealing with that noise in the market. And so I think, you mentioned earlier, there's a difference between technology and then there's a difference between running a business. I couldn't agree more with that, but it's never been more critical for people in leadership positions to actually have an innate understanding of how technology works and enables a business to function in a modern era. I mean, we now have connected consumers that we're now bridging environmental and digital and retail in totally different ways. Once we have ubiquitous connectivity, everything that we think of as an experience will change. You'll never get on another Wi-Fi network in your life. You'll just be on.
You're always connected.
AI is changing things, and these aren't 20 years out. These are 5, 10 years, 15 years, of continuous improvement that's going to be bringing these things to market. And you've got companies like IBM that are offering Watson now with free APIs. You've got all sorts of things happening. Microsoft has, some amazing machine learning and speech recognition intelligence that they offer, out there, and they're opening up their ecosystem. I mean, there's some just incredible things that are taking place, and if you want to really connect with users, leaders need to know how people are embracing technology and really what that technology is, because for most, it's still this invisible thing that just lives in the machine or in the cloud.
Right.
So
there is no cloud. There's only someone else's computer.
Exactly.
This is actually a subject that's near and dear to my heart. The idea that, frankly, just to be a responsible digital citizen or to just interact with almost anything in life now, it's important to have a concept of the fundamentals of digital machinery and the internet and the web and the various technologies involved, even if you're never going to do a lick of coding, And we've got our own approach here at the Tech Academy of trying to solve that, but that's for people who want to break into the technology industry, right? What's been your experience in working with other business leaders in how comfortable people are with approaching that digital arena, or do you find that there's still a lot of back off on that's all just a mystery over there, and you guys do whatever magic you do with your ones and zeros?
I think there's more receptiveness to it than ever, but there's still the challenge of, do we internalize this? Do we bring in outside help? I mean, one of the big offerings that is very unique that we have is an advisory service. So it's, really how do we work with leaders, managers, product owners to develop things like understanding the product roadmap and vision, the technology path that they need to be considering, investment planning around their technology. And part of that is because when we work with, people that are trying to bring in this acumen or develop this even internally, there's, understanding the mechanics of how things work, and then there's understanding how you integrate and take in those mechanics to drive your business.
How do you solve that with leaders? What do you do?
I think you have to start with common language, honestly. If you try to explain technology and technology terms to somebody who doesn't understand it, you've already lost them before the conversation's begun. So it's our job as technologists and as creative thinkers and problem solvers to humanize the conversation, to bring it back down to common ground. It's not their job to catch up, I don't think. I think we're reversing the priority. So one easy example, working with a leadership team, helping understand, okay, when you build, or let's just use a website because it's a really easy example. Yeah. You might have 3 different layers to it. You have the user experience, you have maybe the application or content management layer, and then you have the data layer. Each one has a different life cycle, which means each one has a different return on investment. Each one has maybe a different skill set needed to implement it. Each one has different supporting infrastructure across the organization and what teams it needs to touch. And especially if they're more forward thinking and they've come to realize that data needs to be a service. It needs to no longer live in silos. It needs to be in service upstream and downstream through the organization. Once you can start to facilitate that conversation, you start unlocking an incredible amount of dialogue around what they can do across the organization. But the problem is, up until then, that conversation has been siloed. We need a website. But they actually don't understand just those bricks and those layers, what they're made up of.
That's really insightful. It reminds me of it's a common story anybody in technology has probably experienced, where the moment that people hear that you're in computers, quote unquote, you do anything related to it, then everything they consider to be related to the computer industry just becomes something they can approach you with, and well, I've got all these viruses on my computer, I can bring that to you, handle it, right? Or I build enterprise software, probably won't be doing that, Grandma.
Big difference.
But it's the same thing until there's a level of understanding on both sides of the table. You're right. You're not speaking the same language. The nomenclature isn't there. And I got to say, on a personal level, it's really great to hear that from you. One of the founding elements, the basic foundations of what we did here at the boot camp, is that it was our goal to not just clear up all those technology terms for our students, because we found that often they actually had misunderstoods on a lot of it, right? But even more than that, to be able to give them the skills to then turn around and explain those relatively complex subjects in simple, non-condescending ways once they get on the job. And we run that all the way through the curriculum so that when they get out there, they themselves are acting to, this is my viewpoint entirely, improve the public relations aspect of being in software, being that technology geek. You can't be the guy that just talks above people,
right,
or comes in with this arrogant, I'm the possessor of this incredibly valuable knowledge and I'm going to deign to give some of it to you.
I love the other side of that, though, too. There's like the mythical unicorn that's also out there. I'll find the engineer that can do everything and anything. And, it's like, well, this technology landscape's pretty vast, and it's pretty complex, and it takes, a lot of specialization. And I think that's really hard for organizations who are trying to build capacity to realize, we'll hold out. We'll find that one person that can do it all. Yeah. And it doesn't exist.
Any organization that makes itself dependent upon any one individual isn't, in my viewpoint, considering the overall health of the organization is the paramount thing. Yeah. No, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, for example. That's a really good point. You love this industry, don't you?
I love it. I've been doing it my whole life. Yeah. I never wanted to do anything else.
Very cool. So. I do need to ask, why didn't you stay down in Silicon Valley? Why Portland? I love Portland. I'm just curious.
I have family here in Oregon. I actually went to the University of Oregon for college.
Oh, cool.
That brought me up here as well. After that, I spent some time in New York and different places working, but I decided to come back to Portland. I had fallen in love with it, and it was a close plane ride to get back home to San Francisco, and it just felt right. So, plus there's just been a growing and blossoming creative community and technology community, and having kept my roots still with that San Francisco community, I didn't feel like I was missing anything, but I felt I got to see something as an adult that I was witnessing as when I first was growing up in the Bay Area, and I think Portland's pretty special for that right now. So.
That's a great point. And in this one, I just have to defer to your experience. I don't have a lot of Silicon Valley experience, and so I can't do the comparison. But that essence of what you described when you were young, that it sounds like I had a very similar experience. Like it's just it's so exciting. Like technology and that whole area is like you get this incredible enthusiasm internally, right? And I think Portland has a lot of that. It's been really neat to be able to go out and just interact with all these incredibly driven, creative people who they're very willing to let people be themselves and have their ideas and try to grow things instead of like just be totally all about me and competition. And it's the characteristics of the digital community in Portland, I think, are fantastic. It's great people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Portland's had such a creative history, and it's been a hub for creativity for so long that now to bring and see that starting to, as the tech community continues to grow and thrive, I think in the area, with seeing those two come together has been, in the last especially 5 years, has been really special.
Yeah, it's very cool. Well, I want to give you an opportunity to, just as a formal thing, just present about your group and your company and who it is that you'd want to hear from and who you're trying to interface with. Is there anything you want to say about you guys?
Sure. I think I appreciate first the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, with Emerge Interactive, we're always looking for clients that are looking to build great digital experiences that are core to their business. So I can honestly say that if digital is critical to your customer's journey in engaging with your business, if you're looking to modernize your organization through web, mobile, or connected device experiences, then Emerge would be a great fit, and we would love to talk to them. We work fairly technology and industry agnostic, so we have a lot of breadth and depth in helping organizations work through some of their challenges and unlock the opportunities that's in front of them.
That's excellent. Well, I'm very glad to give you the opportunity, and we are kindred souls in a lot of ways. So I like helping, and I like helping you. So great. Well, thank you so much for this. I look forward to the talk you're going to give in a little bit to our students here, which is really exciting. And thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, this is Jack Stanley again, co-founder of the Tech Academy. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I'd like to leave you with a suggestion. We call this Jack's Random Tips. Today's tip is, when you start a new job, it's best to find out what their expectations are of you and to put all of your effort into performing those duties. During the hiring process, the company will most likely go over your job description and explain to you what they expect of you. And if they don't, you should ask. In the beginning, it's best to just focus on meeting your employer's expectations. When you're a new employee, that isn't always the best time to change the company you work for, especially in the case of successful companies. If they already know what they're doing and it's going well for them, they're probably not looking to change things. Therefore, new employee suggestions aren't always welcomed. It's better to first show them you can produce what they need, and once you've established yourself as a competent employee, then bring up potential improvements. Otherwise, you might come across like the overly critical new guy. This may seem like common sense, but it does happen. A new employee is hired, asked to complete a series of tasks, and goes off instead on their own wild tangent and critiques the project approach. Most employers won't be happy with such behavior. Again, the more proven you are as an employee, the more likely it is that your employer will be receptive to suggestions, changes, and critiques. But when you're brand new, that's not always the best time. And again, if you are interested in enrolling in our Software Developer Bootcamp, please visit our website, learncodinganywhere.com. During our bootcamp, students learn several in-demand programming languages. By the end of the bootcamp, students are well-rounded, entry-level software developers. In addition to our thorough curriculum, one of the things that sets us apart is that our program is self-paced, and we offer open enrollment, which means students can start anytime. Whether you're looking for a career change, you're unemployed, or fresh out of high school, the Tech Academy is the perfect option for those interested in breaking into the technology industry. LearnCodingAnywhere.com.